Okay, I already planned my introduction, and I'm going to start by saying hello, bonjour, hola, aloha, konnichiwa, wagwan, shalom, assalamu alaikum, jambo, yeah, ciao, namaste. Did I miss any? Oh, okay. Okay, so I think this is the time where you just see yourself, you represented. If I didn't mention your hello from your country, be happy to also tell us over the break time. As we're getting started, I want to welcome everyone to this lovely town, Como. Is it lovely or not? It's been lovely, yeah? And we apologize for starting a bit late, but we're going to cover up at the end of this session. So welcome to the 2024 BILT Bridging Event in Europe. And I'm very happy to see many faces here. So the theme that is going to govern the next 3 days is on towards inclusive excellence. And with us here in this room, we have everybody who matters when it comes to inclusion and excellence. We have government representatives, we have TVET managers and instructors, I can see them. We have the civil society, we have business associates, we have the representation from the industry, and most importantly, we have the young people to tell us what inclusion and excellence really means to them. So we're going to have a 3-day action-packed full of activities. We will have panel discussions, we will have quick talks, we will have roundtables, and we really want to welcome you and to invite you to discuss with us, give us your interventions and examples, and feel free to express yourselves. So as we get started, I want you to really think about what these 3 days are going to mean. For us, inclusion and excellence is very important, and you're going to hear from the different interventions that we're going to have later. But what we really aim to really understand is to get a comprehensive understanding of what inclusive excellence really means. We want to be able to see how the policy and the legal landscape really revolves around this topic and how it's implemented in different regions. So we start with Africa, we'll have intervention from Asia Pacific, as well as Europe. Can we borrow some practices? Are there interesting initiatives that we need to be collaborating in? And most importantly, what can we do in this room? Can we affirm and reaffirm our commitment to inclusion? And this is what really we want to do and achieve at the end of these 3 days. So we welcome you to participate. We are really happy to have you here in the room. And for those of us who are watching us online, thank you so much for the patience and for joining us. We are very happy to tell you that we'll have a few hybrid sessions so that we get involved. This topic really traverses across all regions, and we really invite you to participate online. To start with, we can use the Q&A function to ask any questions, or the chat functions to tell us where you're joining us from, tell us your name, tell us your institution, and help us to answer this question. In your context, how is inclusive excellence implemented? Do you have good examples that we can all learn from? Tell us something about inclusive excellence. And I'm going to read some of these interventions from online participants at the end of this session. Are we ready? Are we happy? Yes. This is a really important topic. And I'm not going to waste any more time. Without further ado, I welcome our host, Mr. Alessandro Mele. The floor is yours.
I want to leave the floor to Erasmo Figini. He's the founder of Cometa. You will have the pleasure to see the experience these days. He loves to speak in French, but today is English, so I leave the floor and I will translate.
Okay. My English is so I prefer that Alessandro Mele translate for me. È un onore per noi avervi qui a casa, avervi in Cometa.
It's an honor for us to have you here in Cometa.
E lavorare sugli stessi ideali.
And working together on the same ideal.
L'Unione Europea ci ha chiamato, soprannominato eccellenza inclusiva.
European Union defined it as an inclusive excellence.
Ma la prima inclusione è accaduta 30 anni fa, il primo sì, aver preso a casa un bambino malato di AIDS e accorgerti di amarlo come un figlio.
The first inclusion was the first yes that we said when we hosted foster children. 30 years ago, he was affected by HIV. And they were surprised to love as a natural children.
Questa è la mission di Cometa. Mettere al centro l'uomo in ogni azione.
This is the mission of Cometa. Put in the center every time the person in every action.
Accogliere uomini di tutte le età, di tutte le religioni, di tutte le razze.
To welcome people from all the race, religion, every part of the world.
Accoglierli nella bellezza e nell'ordine.
To welcome them in a beautiful place, prepared for them.
E gemmare per loro accoglienza, scuola, diurno.
And to start with them the activity, the foster activity, the daily foster activity, the education, and all the activity that you will discover tomorrow.
Okay, have a good day, have a good work.
Enjoy your conference, have a good day, and good work. Thank you. Erasmo is going and say goodbye to everyone because it's in trouble with English, so we will tell you something in Italian. I'm the president of Cometa, and I'm very proud to have you here. And I would like to say especially thank you to UNEVOC friends, Friedrich, Kenny, all the staff. I cannot say all the names, otherwise it became late. But a special thank you to be here, because for us is a great, we are very proud to be part of the network of UNESCO-UNEVOC. It's a great opportunity. Opportunity is the word that I want to share with you. It's an opportunity to learn from you, to learn to the other people of the network. It's an opportunity to share, because we have a very peculiar experience, and we would like to share with you our experience, so to learn each other. And it's a great opportunity to be part of the network for the student and the teacher, because they know they can meet the world and the different experience of the world, so it's a great richness. We will have we are very happy to show you what we do. Tomorrow we will have a study visit in Cometa. We will be served by the students for the breakfast, for the lunch, and for the gala dinner tomorrow evening. And so we can share this particular experience. Natalie told me that is an humanistic approach. No? I love this word, this idea. We don't want just to teach the know-how, how to do something, but we would like to develop the person, the personality, and we have this idea. We started from dropout students, and we learned a lot from them. It was a great lesson. We discovered that these guys was very, very active in work experience, and they was really passive in the school. So we understood that we needed to bring work experience inside the school. And we discovered this approach, experiential learning. It was very, very useful because they were activated very much. And now we have a sort of school enterprise model. We will discover it in these days. And I think that it's an interesting way to change the paradigm of the school. Not a transmissive school, not just learning skills, how to do something, but to develop the thought, the personality in relationship with reality. So job experience is the best way to learn something also in the contents. What is inclusive excellence? Last thing that I want to share with you. From these students, we learned that every person is excellent. It's not a little percentage of the world that can go in Harvard or MIT. Every person is excellent. So the goal of the life is help every person to become himself or herself. And every person is unique in the world. There is no one like me, like you, and everyone can give his, her own original contribution to the world. So this is our goal, this is the goal of education in our opinion, and we are very happy to share this with you and work together on this idea of inclusive excellence. And we want to learn your experience, as Priscilla said, about inclusive excellence, because we believe that the heart of every person is the same. So the starting point of inclusion is this. We are all the same. We are the same desires. We are made for the same experience of the life. In different culture, in different part of the world, and this is the richness. So thank you very much for this opportunity. And I have to say that Simona Tironi is sorry. She is sick. She has a temperature. She's on the bed. And we hope that she will recover next days. But she is in charge with us. She is very proud of our work. And I think that I can leave now the floor, Priscilla, to the boss, our Friedrich, our conductor. Thank you, Friedrich, and I leave you the floor.
Thank you, Alessandro. And first of all, I'm not the boss here, I'm a colleague of all of you. And I really look forward to working with all of you. So I want to also, first of all, thank Mr. Figini for coming here. It was really an honor to meet him. Alessandro, thanks to you also. And dear partners, distinguished guests, and also online participants. Do we have people who are joining online? Let me just confirm this. Are we live? Okay, very good. So hello, I think you're there over there. So well, on behalf of UNESCO-UNEVOC, I want to wish you a warm welcome to this 3-day conference towards inclusive excellence in TVET. With this conference, we are starting a new cycle of BILT Bridging Events that are held first in Europe with this event here in Como, and later this year we will have another event in Africa, and in 2025 in the Asia and Pacific region. We will also have a global learning forum that will complete this cycle of BILT events in 2025. Before I address the theme of this conference, I wanted to express my appreciation to our partners at the German Federal Ministry of Education and Research and the German Federal Institute for Vocational Education and Training for their continued support and commitment to the BILT project and also to the work of UNESCO-UNEVOC in general. At this conference, we will highlight the importance of inclusive excellence in TVET. True excellence in TVET can only be achieved when all learners, regardless of their background or circumstances, have equal access to high-quality education and training. It's therefore fitting that this event is hosted by Cometa, which is a distinguished UNEVOC Centre that has been recognized as a center of inclusive excellence. Last month, you may know this, in March, UNESCO actually celebrated the 3rd-year anniversary of the Salamanca Statement on Inclusive Education that was adopted at the World Conference on Special Needs Education in 1994. And since then, since 1994, many countries have enacted laws and regulations to promote inclusive education. The importance of ensuring inclusive education that caters to the needs of all learners was also recently reaffirmed at the United Nations Transforming Education Summit that was held in New York in September 2022. So we are now in 2024, and this is 6 years from 2030, the target year of the Sustainable Development Goals. SDG 4 on education aims to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and lifelong learning opportunities for all. And this includes also access to a high-quality technical and vocational education and training, which plays a crucial role in conveying the knowledge and skills needed to achieve all sustainable development goals. In spite of this, there are many factors that continue to be associated with exclusion from education. That includes poverty, location, language, ethnicity, gender, disability, migration status, and many other personal and household characteristics. And in spite of the pledge to leave no one behind, and in spite of significant progress that has been observed since 2015 when the SDGs were adopted, millions of children, youth and adults continue to be excluded from education, and that includes exclusion from TVET. Now, as we work together to promote excellence in TVET, we must also emphasize inclusive excellence. Tackling inequalities and exclusion requires transforming entire education systems. We must establish suitable legal frameworks, policies, and strategies. We must reimagine and adapt curricula. And we must transform teaching and learning methods. Inclusive excellence also means that we must actively engage with individuals from diverse backgrounds and include them in decision-making to dismantle barriers and overcome systemic inequalities. By embracing inclusive excellence, TVET can harness the power of diversity to drive innovation, creativity, and better outcomes for all. UNESCO-UNEVOC is committed to supporting member states in their efforts to promote high-quality TVET for all, in order to empower all individuals to work, learn, and live in inclusive, sustainable, and peaceful economies and societies. It is our sincere hope that over the 3 days of this conference, you will renew your commitment to inclusive education, that you will exchange best practices and also come up with new ideas for promoting inclusive excellence, and that you will also strengthen existing and forge new partnerships. As I conclude, I want to thank again our colleagues from Cometa for hosting this event and our partners from BIBB and BILT, and also the UNEVOC staff for their initiative and their support. So to all of you, both here in Como and online, thank you for your dedication to making TVET more inclusive for all, and I wish you all a very good and productive conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Friedrich and Mr. Alessandro, for that introduction. So we are scheduled next to hear from His Excellency, the Minister of Education and Merit, Italy, who could unfortunately not make it today, but sent us a message. So let's listen to the message.
Credo molto nella scuola dei talenti. Abbiamo cambiato nome al Ministero, l'abbiamo chiamato dell'istruzione e del merito. Ma merito che cosa vuol dire? Vuol dire che ogni giovane ha un'abilità, ha un talento, e il compito della scuola è quello di aiutarlo a tirar fuori quel talento, quella potenzialità e a valorizzare quell'abilità. Merito non significa raggiungere traguardi di eccellenza assoluta che solo pochissimi potrebbero raggiungere, ma dare il meglio di ciò che si ha con l'impegno. E allora, se è vero questo, se è vero che ogni giovane ha un talento, se è vero quello che dice ormai la psicologia da qualche decennio a questa parte, che le intelligenze sono tante, sono diverse e sono tutte ugualmente degne perché fanno parte della bellezza individuale di ogni persona, e allora noi dobbiamo offrire ai nostri giovani un modello scolastico plurale, un modello scolastico che punti per esempio sulla importanza dell'istruzione tecnico-professionale, che deve diventare un canale formativo di serie A, che valorizzi quell'intelligenza, anche quell'intelligenza pratica, quell'intelligenza concreta, che necessariamente sa coniugare quella che io definisco la libertà con il lavoro. La libertà che cosa vuol dire? Vuol dire la cultura, vuol dire quella cultura che sa far maturare il cittadino, lo rende responsabile, lo rende indipendente da qualsiasi condizionamento. Ma poi la libertà va coniugata appunto con il lavoro, la bellezza del lavoro, che è un grande valore costituzionale e che realizza concretamente le opportunità formative di ogni giovane. Allora, dare ad un ragazzo, dare ad una ragazza una formazione che sia in grado di costruire per lui, per lei, un futuro degno, un futuro di realizzazione, un futuro in cui appunto quei talenti si possano realizzare e esplicare al pieno.
Fantastic. Round of applause.
4+2 significa questo, significa valorizzare fra l'altro anche il contributo fondamentale che le imprese danno, mettere insieme scuola con impresa, far dialogare la scuola con l'impresa, non perché la scuola sia al servizio dell'impresa, ma proprio il contrario. Se noi veniamo a sapere che ogni anno in Italia circa 1 milione di posti di lavoro non vengono coperti per mancanza di qualifiche corrispondenti, beh, vuol dire che questo è un delitto nei confronti dei nostri giovani, è un delitto perché non offriamo opportunità lavorative, spesso coerenti con i loro talenti. Allora, valorizzare la persona, la scuola costituzionale, valorizzare i talenti, valorizzare la pluralità, mettere insieme libertà e lavoro, valorizzare questo collegamento stretto, forte fra scuola e impresa, credo che sia qualcosa di molto importante per una scuola che dia un futuro a tutti i nostri giovani. Mi spiace di non essere con voi, sarebbe stato molto bello anche confrontarci, dialogare a questo interessantissimo convegno UNESCO-UNEVOC, a questa 3 giorni che sarà sicuramente molto stimolante, ma insieme con il mio messaggio auguro veramente di cuore un buon lavoro e poi sarò anche ansioso di conoscere i frutti di questo vostro confronto.
Okay, I think that which requires another round of applause. And thank you so much, Your Excellency, Mr. Giuseppe Valditara, for that intervention. It really explains what freedom really means in the context of TVET. So thank you so much for that. And really and before we do that, let me first of all announce that this ceremony is officially open, yeah? It's officially open, and really happy to have everyone. So we really want to dig deeper into this discussion of inclusive excellence, and you have seen that we have had already interventions of what exactly it means. And we want to now to look at the nexus between inclusion and excellence. And to help us really understand this topic and to give us a few examples, I'm very pleased to welcome our next keynote speaker, who is Ms. Anastasia Pouliou. Ms. Anastasia Pouliou is the expert in qualification and credentials, future of VET at the European Centre of Development of TVET, Cedefop. Welcome.
Right, thank you. Thank you. Good morning, Kalimera, as we say in Greece. I'm Greek. My name is Anastasia Pouliou. I work as an expert at Cedefop, which is the European Centre for the development of vocational training in Europe. And I'm very pleased and very honored to accept this invitation to be with you today. And I'm very happy because this is like a really international audience, and all the insights we will be sharing today is very, very useful, not only for Cedefop, but I guess for the online participants and for everybody that is interested in the power, let's say, of VET, or VET as we call it, or TVET. In my agency, we do a lot of work on understanding, let's say, what is actually the content and the profile of vocational education and training in Europe. We try a lot to discuss with member states, with representatives, let's say, of very important institutions in Europe, and we try to have a very nice exchange and dialogue with them in order to understand how, in what sense, vocational education and training is being transformed, and in what way it will be, let's say, in a position to face the challenges of the future. I have a presentation to share with you, hoping it will appear in the screen. Yeah, it does, and I'm very happy. So the title of my presentation is about the European VET for the 21st century, right? So the idea is that we are currently discussing, let's say, the changes, the way vocational education and training is actually shaped until now. But in order to do that, in order, let's say, to understand, for example, what is needed for the future, we definitely need to take a step back and look at what has already been achieved in the past. Because that's the only way, by looking back, you're in the position to look ahead and understand, let's say, the challenges of the future. So for this reason, when we started our research at Cedefop back in 2015, we had this idea, and let's say a concrete focus on what is actually happening with European VET, where it is actually heading. And for sure, there were, let's say, two different scenarios that were being developed back in time. First of all, there was this negative story about VET, about vocational education and training. What is it really happening? What is the position of VET as compared, let's say, or related or linked to other systems of education, like general education, higher education, adult education? What is really happening? And of course, is it like declining, or is it somehow being strengthened, or does it really change its picture, its image? So if you think about the past, somehow we would say that vocational education training is usually a second option for learners, right? So that's, let's say, a preconception, an idea that we have that VET is perhaps not necessarily the best option. On the other hand, there is this positive image that is actually being shaped across time. And this is, of course, not something that Anastasia is saying, but what we see from evidence, from our research. We actually embarked on a very important journey. Like we wanted to have this historical perspective and to see how and in what sense vocational education and training changed from not only 2015, but back in time, in 1995. So we did have this more historical focus. And what we saw is that within this positive story, VET is actually being strengthened. It is being diversified. It actually reaches even higher levels of education. That is why nowadays we've put a lot of focus on higher VET, on higher advanced vocational qualifications. And this is a very important phenomenon. And we also saw that VET is not only about medium level skills, but it's something more than that. It is actually in a position to give to learners these more occupation-related skills and competencies, but also more than that. And this is my presentation today. Of course, as I said before, Cedefop has embarked on a very important historical, let's say, journey. So we wanted to understand the changes in VET. Already we started in 2016, but our focus was back in 1995. So we actually had a 25 years, let's say, focus, and we wanted to understand all the changes in VET in different countries in Europe. And we have three different strands of work. One was called the changing nature and role of VET. We produced more than 7 publications on that topic. We then continued with the future of VET, where we try to zoom in on specific parts related to the content, the profile of VET, the institutional, let's say, design, the assessment, let's say, processes that are actually being adopted in different countries in Europe, and many other aspects. And we are currently focusing on this important concept of excellence together with inclusion, because these are very, very important terms, and they definitely need to be brought together. And of course, why did we want to do that? First of all, when we think about countries, right, and the way they develop, we need to understand that each country in Europe, at least because this is our mandate and our focus, has its own, let's say, trajectory. And it has its own, let's say, pathway. Quite often we use at Cedefop the term path dependency. Let's say countries develop in time in different ways. So we can never somehow compare countries in the same way unless we have a very good grasp of their national context and national specificities. And this is a very important aspect. Now, thinking that countries have their own, let's say, picture, or they are a kind of a mixture of different economic, social, let's say, environmental factors that are rather shaping their policies, we need to understand that they have their distinctive, let's say, concepts, or the way they try to conceptualize specific concepts is very unique. So if we want to talk about excellence and inclusion, we definitely need to understand what these terms mean. We definitely need to have this more, let's say, conceptual thinking behind. And I think this is very important. What we also saw from our research that in Europe, there are many European countries that emphasize this importance, let's say, in the need for specialized VET skills at the highest possible level of performance. This is very important. And we see that VET institutions and systems, as it is argued, must enable individuals, let's say, not to somehow do what they can, but they need to reach world-class standards somehow. It's not enough for VET to provide, let's say, medium-level skills, as I said before, but there's a need to go beyond what it is normally expected to do, and this is quite important. But at the same time, we saw that VET is actually viewed as a tool to include and integrate all types of learners, and especially those ones that are at risk. We already had in the morning that we are talking about disadvantaged people, low-qualified migrants. Also, we need to consider gender imbalances. There are all these, let's say, a broader group of learners that definitely need to be integrated. And it's not only that we need to consider the high achievers, but it's mainly the low achievers, mainly the ones that have difficulties and they're lagging behind. And I think this is what our eyes should definitely look at. Now, our research, of course, builds on many things we have already produced at Cedefop. We actually developed different research publications. We tried to develop scenarios for European vets already back in 2018. We presented those scenarios in Vienna within the European Vocational Skills Week. And we saw that there's a need of different countries and different representatives of countries to understand, let's say, the bigger context in which their different systems are evolving. So within that research frame and research context, and also taking into account what Cedefop was doing, which was mainly to monitor specifically the national developments in line with the priorities in Europe. So having all these, let's say, context as a background, we wanted really now to focus on this important topic on excellence and inclusion. And I think it was already mentioned before that this idea of excellence is something that needs to have a more holistic perspective, a holistic view, because excellence and inclusion, are definitely two important terms, but they are actually two sides of the same coin, I would say. So they are definitely talking to each other. But in order to do that, and in order to be able to understand those concepts, we need to focus specifically on national level priorities. Member states are trying somehow to follow closely and to see what are the priorities set at the European level, but they have their own priorities at the national level, and this is very important. And we feel the need at Cedefop within this research that we start now and will last for the next 3 years, that we want to understand concretely what are those national, let's say, objectives and priorities that are all not only, let's say, happening now and they are taking place now, but we want to understand whether back in time, as I said, if we go back to 20 years ago, do we really see the focus on excellence already back then? Of course, the term might not be used like that at a national level, but what are the, let's say, the processes, the strategies, the actions that the countries are taking somehow to promote the best of their learners? So I think this is a very important step. Of course, we also need to understand, as I said, the priorities, but then also the concrete national VET objectives. And of course, we definitely need to link everything with the national curricula, because I think that was also mentioned from the minister before, is the idea of the teaching practices, the methodologies, the teaching methodologies that are used, and in what sense, let's say, the national curricula can be a configuration, let's say, a representation of the objectives set at the national level. And I think this is very important. So our research actually has three main thematic areas. As I said before, it has a historical perspective, a historical overview, where we try to understand already what has been happening so far in different countries in Europe. So we are going to really engage in an very big mapping exercise, which is quite ambitious, I have to say. We want to map how national VET systems are actually addressing these objectives of excellence and inclusion. And once we do that, and this is actually happening this year, 2024, when we go to 2025, we want then to explore all the conceptual, let's say, foundations. Sorry, you're live with me, okay. So, as I said before, at the second level, we want to explore the conceptual thinking behind what is actually happening at a country level, at a national level. And finally, our third and very important focus is what we already saw with our previous projects. We actually saw within the Future of VET study of Cedefop that VET is actually strengthened. It is being diversified and is actually expanding towards higher education levels. So we see this important focus on higher VET, as we call it. And that is why we want to actually explore the way, for example, a higher VET is being formed in Europe, and in what sense it actually reflects these objectives, these current objectives now on excellence, and in what sense it tries to integrate different types of learners, specifically in the higher education levels, if we think about the European qualification framework. And this is, of course, very important focus, and we hope it will fit into the current discussions, let's say, at the European international level. Now, for the first work assignment, you can see already in my screen the different research questions we are asking, how, for example, these objectives of excellence, let's say, have been addressing national policy, thinking in national policy documents for the last 25 years. This is very important. And also we want to understand, for example, what has mainly triggered this kind of policy, let's say, all the different implementations and different measures that countries are taking at the national level. And of course, we have very concrete focus on, first of all, the learning outcomes expectations. And I think the learning outcomes approach is the key, is the backbone of all EU tools, of the developments of national qualification frameworks or different, let's say, European processes. So we again need to see in what sense this, let's say, focus now is also influencing these learning outcomes expectations, always when we are reflecting curricular design and standard setting. I think this is quite important. We also need to understand what is the resource allocation. For example, who are the key players in the games? What is happening with institutions, for example? Which are the institutions that are there really to promote, let's say, the best of different types of learners, in what sense excellence can be seen in that sense, and of course, in what sense these can have an important impact and influence on sectoral policies. And I think this is, let's say, the first key research focus of this year. In the second theme, as I said before, we want to understand also the conceptual background, in what sense the concepts of excellence and inclusion are grasped at the country level. And I think this is very important. Are they using this term? Or what other, let's say, ideas do they have in mind when they talk about excellence? And of course, we then need to understand what are the instruments that will be used to promote excellence and inclusion at national level, if it's related to institutional design, to stakeholder involvement, to pedagogies, and other elements. The third research work, of course, is also related, as I said, to higher VET. In what sense, let's say, going further in the qualification ladder can be an important, let's say, angle to consider when we talk about excellence and inclusion. And of course, overall, we want to have this more summative but also holistic approach to excellence. Of course, if we think about it, we can say that excellence can be found at all levels of education and training, but at the same time, we can also focus at a specific education level, and then we need to understand about the provision side, the accessibility, and also the target groups, the people that are involved. At the same time, I think we also heard before that all these are related to the unique features, the uniqueness of each and every one of us, and in what sense all potential learners can actually demonstrate their unique features in the, let's say, in the learning process. In order to develop the research work, we had a specific analytical model we were actually developing back in 2015. This is a three-perspective analytical model, and we try to integrate different items, and we call them signals here, in order to track excellence and inclusion. And in order to do that, you need to understand we have these three lenses that we are looking at the topic. The first is the socioeconomic and labor market perspective, meaning what is the position and the currency of VET within the society and compared to different other systems of education and training. At the same time, we need to understand the epistemological and pedagogical perspectives that are actually, let's say, and the practices that are being, let's say, adopted in different countries, and also the education system perspective that is related to governance, to funding, and all the other elements. Of course, in my slides, and you can also get them from the organizers, you can see the way I'm trying to analyze the three lenses: the socioeconomic perspective, the important role of VET within the wider context of work and society, what is, let's say, the important focus of social partners, the demographics, or let's say the external factors that are shaping VET in that sense. Also, the important focus on the content, the teaching and learning is key here if we talk about inclusive excellence, because we need to understand what type of knowledge is actually delivered. Is it more practical knowledge, or do we have elements of academic knowledge, let's say, in the current delivery and the content, the profile of it, or for instance, in what sense there are different combinations of knowledge, and in what sense skills and competencies are actually being taught. And I think this is the second focus. And the last one is, as I said, emphasizing the institutional perspective, and in what way institutions and systems together have been evolving over time, and what do we really see having this in mind. These are different elements of the analytical model. We did try already to apply the model and try to zoom in. So we try to take specific parameters of the three-perspective model, and we wanted to apply that in order to understand excellence and inclusion. Of course, the slide is a bit dense, but the idea is that we try to zoom in on specific elements on purpose. So in order to understand excellence as a whole, there are so many different elements, so we have to focus on specific ones, as I mentioned before, on the three lenses, and we want to examine, for example, the governance parameter, or the institutional perspectives, as I said, or the teaching methodology. So there are specific parts that we try to zoom in. Again, in another figure, we try to play a bit with the data we saw already. For instance, if we wanted to design, let's say, the areas that excellence would cover, which would be the blue area, and then we wanted to show again how inclusion is related to the specific parts. We see they are overlapping, and in other cases excellence is a bit over-dominating as opposed to inclusivity or inclusion. So the idea of having a robust analytical model is really helping us in that sense. We also did a very important national scenario workshop in Slovenia in 2022, and I have to tell you, I was really surprised. As I said, 2 years ago, that within like a setting as we are here today, we invited very important stakeholders in the Slovenian context. We wanted to understand what will be the best scenario for Slovenia in the future, and what they came about was this one, which is called inclusive excellence. So it was really striking for me already to see that 2 years ago, the Slovenians wanted to prioritize in the country, because they were in very good concrete discussions in the Ministry of Education, and they wanted to elaborate on that model. Of course, we have a research publication and a summary of this scenario model in Cedefop website, and you can take a look at it, but it shows the way they conceive it in Slovenia and what are the specific areas they are trying to zoom in. Here you can see the 7 publications we've already produced within the first, let's say, strand of work, and these are all accessible from Cedefop website, where we try to analyze the definitions, the conceptions on VET, for example, what are the external factors that are influencing, let's say, the VET design, the VET delivery, how VET is actually trying to cover higher education levels, and as I said, how it can be seen from a lifelong learning perspective. We also produce more and more publications zooming in on different areas of vocational education and training. And also, as I said, said now, it's important to understand how VET can be a key enabler to integrate target group and learners from different spheres and different countries and origins and different backgrounds, even the way you would integrate non-formal learning, all the types of prior knowledge that learners have in order to recognize them in the current, let's say, educational setting is already a very important step ahead. Of course, we have a very important panel discussion coming later, and I will be talking about this very important topic and also the way Cedefop has also been trying to understand how and best way to integrate and upskill and reskill not only young learners, but also adults and people who are at risk. And I think in that context, this important focus on micro-credentials for vocational education and training and labor market learning is very relevant. And of course, we did a very important research work that lasted already 3 years now. It was already finalized, and we are now starting a new research on the topic, where we want to understand not only the usefulness of micro-credentials in that context of upskilling, reskilling, including actually integrating and really showing and making visible all the types of skills and knowledge people right now might have. So within that context, we really developed different research publications, and we saw that it's not something new, this topic of micro-credentials, actually something that's fitting very well the current discussions. Of course, there are strengths, limitations, there are different challenges that we need to consider, especially if we think about micro-credentials, and I can refer to those in the panel discussion. But for sure, we have published, again, numerous publications that are available in the Cedefop website, and two actually very important, interesting podcast and a very fresh one with ILO, where we actually debate the importance of micro-credentials and upskilling, let's say, for the green and the digital transition. I know that time has been short, and somebody's there looking at me to shorten my presentation. I didn't have time, of course, to elaborate on the analytical model, but I'm very happy to be with you. I'm available for any discussion, comment, clarification that you'd like to make, and of course, at Cedefop website, you can find everything, all research publications, and I'm very happy to be with you, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much for setting that thematic framework. You can actually see that inclusive excellence is actually what Anastasia just said. It's the objectives of the same coin, that's what you said, something like that. But really, there's no excellence in vocational education without inclusion. Whatever way you look at it, if you're not going to include every person coming from different regions, coming from different backgrounds and circumstances, there can never be excellence in vocational education. And as we move ahead, we're going to just quickly look into the impulse talks. And this is really to capture what Anastasia just said, that different countries, different regions translate these objectives different ways, depending on the priorities that they have and perspectives and context. And to help us understand what is happening in the African region, we have Ms. Sophia Ashipala, who is joining us on Zoom. Yes, she is there, I can see her. Ms. Sophia Ashipala is the head of education division in the Education, Science, Technology and Innovation Department of the African Union Commission. Ms. Ashipala, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Priscilla, for granting me this opportunity. And greetings to each one of you, dear participants. It's good to see you, each one of you, and I wish I was there on site, but nevertheless, it's the same to join this discussion also online. So in the next few minutes, I will be just giving a reflection on some of the regional TVET strategies and policies that are aimed at enhancing inclusion as well as excellence in African member states, also to support access and participation, and also to promote TVET as an attractive career path. I'll try to be as brief as possible. Let me start by saying we all know that the African Union is implementing the AU theme of the year for this year, and is on education. And the theme is focusing on education and skilling Africa for the 21st century. And it is under the theme, building a resilient education system for increased access to inclusive, lifelong quality and relevant learning in Africa. This theme has 10 objectives, and one of the objectives is on TVET. So in implementing this theme, it is our mandate, it is within our intention to stimulate impulses for concrete, impactful action in African Union member states. This is toward the transformation of education in Africa. This also includes then the transformation of TVET systems, which is one of the objectives in the roadmap, as I said. Excellence in learning, the goal of all education and training system, hence at the heart of developing the quality and the image of vocational education and training. This is also an opportunity for all TVET institutions in Africa to collaborate, to learn from one another during the year of education, and then to scale up all the good practices and the examples that are taking place in different member states. In addition to that, the African Union has also a number of policies and frameworks that are also going to be very, very relevant in our discussion today. The first one is Agenda 2063. Many of us, we are acquainted with this one. This is the Continental Development Blueprint that talks of an education and skill revolution, which is underpinned by science, technology, and innovation to develop Africa human and social capital and to promote a well-educated citizen. So Agenda 2063 also talk about strengthening TVET through scale-up investments, the establishment of a pool of high-quality TVET centers across Africa, greater links with industry and alignment to labor market. This is really taking center stage now in Africa, and as we are also embarking now on implementing the theme of the year, this specific objective, which is talking about TVET, many of these centers, TVET centers in Africa, they are really trying to work together and collaborate to see how they will take this initiative forward. One of the strategy also that the African Union member states are implementing is the continuing education strategy for Africa. And as the African Union, there are a number of clusters that are established or are developed within the strategy to help implement the strategy in member states. And one of these clusters, which is a pool of a coalition of partners on TVET, is also the TVET cluster. So this objective is on expansion of TVET opportunities at both secondary and tertiary levels, and strengthening linkages between the world of work and education, as well as training systems. One of the sister guiding principles is consideration of quality and relevant education, training, and research as core for scientific and technological innovation, creativity, as well as entrepreneurship. You may also know that this strategy is concluding in the coming year, in 2025. This strategy is concluding. It is concluding in 2025, and then we are initiating the launch of it, where we will have a number of consultation with stakeholders, as well as those that are in the TVET ecosystem to find out what was the impact, the contribution of the strategy in member states, and what is that can be done differently to improve really the implementation of TVET in member states. We also have the continental strategy for TVET. This one also, we are launching a review for it. It has also concluded. We were supposed to start by the end of last year. So this strategy is actually fostering, it was aimed to foster youth employment. It provides a strategic framework for the development of national policies to address the challenges of technical and vocational training. The strategy also addresses the cross-cutting issues of governance, innovation, and creativity, employability, and relevance, with the main thrust being a shift through development of TVET systems and prepare young people to be job creators rather than job seekers. This is actually what this strategies is aiming to empower the youth so that they can create their own employment. So the African Union will be undertaking a review, as I said, for this strategy and to align it with the current trends. In addition to all that, there is also a TVET ticket plan of action. This plan of action was launched in 2018, and it is running up to 2028. The roadmap on the accelerating implementation of the TVET strategy, improving quality and relevance of TVET, and promoting digital, green, blue skill, and blue skills are among critical focal areas in this decade plan of action, which I said has run through from 2018 and is still effective. In addition to that, we also have the African Union Digital Education Strategy, which is anchored on the three key pillars for the digital transformation of African economies. This digital strategy focuses on digital technology in education for teaching, learning, research, assessment, as well as administration. Digital education, this is to enhance the skills and competency, promote digital citizenship, and building the capacity of EU member states in digital infrastructure. This is for digital education. Member states, they are really trying hard to have this integrated within their national plans and also to use it in teaching. So one of the flagship programs also that the African Union have launched is the African Continental Qualification Framework. And this is aimed at enhancing comparability, quality, as well as transparency of qualification. I know that during our panel, qualification is one of the key topics of our discussion later on. So this is what the African Union is having, and we want to member states really to domesticate it and to make sure that all the member states, they are at par when dealing with the different types of qualifications, mobility of experts, whether it is teachers, how the qualifications they are put at one level, to have a continental teacher or to have a continental instructor, such that when the qualification is working in one country, it can also work in the other. So this particular framework, we are really advocating for it to be domesticated and to make sure that all the member states, they are using it. So this strategy, they need to be interwoven with the national policies, as I said, and national strategies. And they also provide an excellent opportunity to further develop synergies among member states for more robust skills, development dialogues and outcomes across the region and with all the relevant partners, particularly in enhancing inclusivity, quality and relevance of TVET. These are underpinning of excellence. As I said, TVET also to be recognized as one of the fields that young people can pursue, to be proud of, and also to since when it is really integrated, for them to create their own employment and not always to wait for them to be employed. So implementation of this strategy will really go a long way to spur the development of national TVET systems and contribute to the development of an African economies. And as our umbrella there is the Agenda 2063, and most of this strategy, they were really developed in consultation or trying to implement at national levels to implement that they are all answering to Agenda 2063. So thank you very much, Priscilla. That is all I wanted to say at this moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sophia, for the interventions and for really bringing in, did I get lost? Okay. And for bringing in, what is going on? Am I live? Okay. For bringing in the aspect of inclusivity, relevance, and quality as key components of inclusive excellence. Thank you so much for that intervention, and stay tuned. We'll be inviting you back during the panel session. And to hear the next intervention from the Asia-Pacific region, we have Mr. Payona, who is the Deputy Director of Professional Affairs and Research at the UNEVOC Brunei, representing the ASEAN TVET Council. He has sent a message because he could not be here with us, so let's listen to the message.
Very good morning, everyone. Warm greetings from Southeast Asia. I'm Pariono from UNEVOC, and in this opportunity, I'm also representing ASEAN TVET Council. So in this opportunity, I would like to share with you some of the initiatives from the region, especially in promoting inclusive excellence in Tibet, especially from the perspective of CMU as well as ASEAN TVET Council. Considering the limited time that I have, so from these topics, I just run very quickly. Some of it maybe I just glance to the slides, but some maybe I can give more time to explain more details. And I think you have with you, Dato' Palani. I think later on you can elaborate for anything that is still need clarifications. So on our understanding, I can share with you what has been practiced in the regions when it comes to inclusive excellence in Tibet, and also a bit of overview about what CMU and ASEAN, to give you a background a bit. What works, so in this case, we'll share with you some of the good practices, promising practices and initiatives, possible collaboration that we can do in the future, as well as what would be the future direction and opportunities with regards to this inclusive excellence in Tibet. I think for this, our understanding, I think it's very similar. I don't have to go to the details. So we're talking about inclusive, talking about excellence. I think you can see some of the pointers over there that I think in general what we are doing is, I think on this area is similar. And just move on to the context of CMU and ASEAN. I think you have heard CMU and ASEAN for some time. Just to refresh your memory that under ASEAN we have 10 member countries. This is established in 1967, addressing various areas from the political, social, cultural, as well as economics. While on the right side, CMU is only focusing on education, science, and culture. In terms of membership, CMU is only participated by the CMU, which is the ministers of education, while ASEAN, a different level of high officials, including the head of the country. As you can see that now under CMU we have 26 centers, and when we talk about Tibet, 2 centers are focusing on this area. One is CMU Boktek, where I'm working at, it's located in Brunei Darussalam, and also we have CMU TET in Cambodia. More detail I can explain later on. ASEAN TVET Council, this is newly established in 2020. Again, this is representing various ministries. Ministry of Education, Ministry of Labor, Ministry of Commerce, Industry, Trade, and other relevant ministries, together with CMU, together with ASEAN Future Workforce Council, and then ASEAN Confederation of Employers, and then also ASEAN Trade Union Council. These are some of the members, and also sometimes we invited some partners to join in. And under these organizations, there are some initiatives that we'd like to share with you. Under CMEO, we have priority number 4. We have 7 priority areas. And priority number 4 is addressing on TVET, which is promoting TVET among learners, teachers, and parents with a more feasible investment. So hopefully this will create more pathways for innovations and creativity related to lifelong learning, higher education, as well as regional mobility. Under ASEAN, we have ASEAN Education Work Plan 21-25, and then under outcome number 4, this is focusing on TVET, and then ASEAN TVET Council Work Plan 21-2030. I can share with you the details here. These are some of the outcomes that we would like to achieve from 21 to 2030. So you can see outcome 1, for example, like strengthen labor market orientations through effective use of labor market information, and also collaboration with business and industry. Outcome 2 is more how to address, how to improve the digital readiness. I think it's something that's happening worldwide. So how can we prepare TVET more agile and also improve the readiness of our graduates. And TVET personnel is very important, how to continue addressing or improving their skills, their competencies. Addressing the image and status still persists. I think we will continue working on this. And outcome 5 and 6 is more kind of internal outcome, how to sustain the ATC. And on the, again, refer back to the 7 priority areas under CMEO. We have you can see number 2 is addressing barriers to inclusions, and the number 4 is promoting TVET. And you can see the list of initiatives under priority 4. If you think that some of this is relevant to our collaboration, we can discuss further later on. And then go back to CMEO Tech, where I'm working at. So in the next 5 years, included in the 7th 5-year development plan, the theme of inclusive TVET for green and digital future, we have identified the 7 priority areas, and inclusive quality TVET is one of them. And from this, we try to cover 4 key research areas. 1, this is basically our services that we offer to the member countries: training and professional development, research innovations, knowledge management, as well as partnership and organizational sustainability. From this, very good morning, everyone. Warm greetings from Southeast Asia. I'm Pariono from CMEO Tech, and
I think we lost connection there, but I can imagine you already got a lot of information from the plans that ASEAN have on inclusive excellence. They talked about their 7 priority areas, of which one of it was inclusive quality TVET, which is very impressive. And we can actually see that this is at the interventions that we are saying, if you promote inclusive TVET, it has to be in the policy, it has to be intentional. And as we wait to see if we are going to get the connection, I'm just going to jump right into the next session. And I'm going to welcome our next speaker, who is Ms. Isabelle Lemoyeur. I'm trying to be very French, Lemoyeur. So allow me to introduce her. She is the head of division at International VET Comparison, Research and Monitoring at the Federal Institute for Vocational Education and Training, BIBB, who are also our partners. Welcome, Ms. Lemoyeur.
Merci for the invitation. This was all my only word in French for today and the next day, so don't worry. As you said, I'm working at BIBB for some years now. I've also been a colleague of Anastasia at Cedefop, and you gave me the huge duty to talk about the European region, but I'm working at BIBB. So I think my colleagues thought, okay, you look a lot at different VET systems, more maybe from the analytic and research way, but don't worry, I can also implement. So I implemented the duty you gave it to me. And by recalling that last week I had a request from Ireland saying, how do you deal with color blindness in VET? It's specific questions. So I went through the BIBB and found, of course, the colleagues working on inclusion. And they said, oh, we have a lot of provisions for any kind of difficulties people might have, and we have a solution for that. We also, of course, have regulation for that. And in Germany, for instance, VET regulations, they have a second version for people with disabilities, so to adapt if you cannot move, if you cannot read, if you cannot see, whatever you have. So I think this is a point of, so we have an excellent inclusive VET. All fine, we are done in Germany. No, of course not, because you have to adapt. And I remember a second point was about, I think 5 years ago, I worked with my colleague from Denmark, Switzerland, Austria. So you will get a hint, we were talking about apprenticeship and dual VET system. And we thought, how do we understand excellence in our systems? And this is something I'm missing in most of the discussion. I think, how do you measure excellence? Not in terms of how nice your provision and adapted it is, but how many of those persons with problems, I say, will join into the labor market? So because we are taking them in the system so as to allow them to join, to make a living out of what they've learned, to be happy, so happy as possible in their lives. And of course, included not only in TVET, but also included in society. So we say, yes, VET systems is also something that Anastasia was mentioning, are always evolving. So we will always have new and old challenges at the same time. But we know that when we look in those 4 countries, all the stakeholders were ready to work on excellence and were ready to work on taking all persons ready to learn on board. All persons, as you mentioned, Friedrich, in your introduction, it's not only the best of the best, but it's all the persons. So I think it's not about promoting the best, but we say it's about co-decision, it's about commitment, ownership, also to give a voice to those persons in associations or wherever they are organized, so that they can be part of the system and not only client or customers of the system. And this is something also sometimes I miss in the document. So I'm trying to increase the challenges and the task for all of us. And then there is one point to say, if that is so important in the life of so many people, it means that it's not only a second choice. You know, second choice is used not only for the best of the best, but also for the worst of the worst, let's say. So it's not only a compensation for things which are not running well in general education, higher education, or informal learning, but it's a driver for change. And if you think it that way, it means that you take persons, let's say, with difficulties, also as in the driving seat of the changes. So you're not doing the changes for them, but with them. You see, I'm more in policy organization. And this is what we say also, that the VET diversity means a diversity of learner profiles, of skills, of competencies, of the way also our labor markets are organized. When you look at the German system, Austrian system, little less Danish system in some part of their characteristic, labor market professions, professional occupations are key to the system. So if you want to think about integrating and developing the VET in that excellence inclusive, you have to look at the labor market. Otherwise, you are doing something nice, of course, but it has a purpose. So we came to the conclusion, but it is not a mystery to you, that excellence is polysemic. And then I was working the last month with French colleagues on excellence in a French-German comparison. And then we found out, how do we understand excellence in the countries? This is what Nastia was telling with path dependency, but it goes beyond that things. I was looking for documents, for instance, in Germany, where we would use merit as a term. And meritocracy is something which is anchored in the French system, so no one has problem with that one. But when you look for this in the German system, in terms of education, objectives of education, it gets more complicated. And then you put on the top a term which is excellence, which means then in both systems something very different. The best of the best, chances of equality, civic participation, is it part of excellence or not? Of course, I have a sociological approach to this. I will skip the theoretical part we discussed with the French colleagues and German colleagues, but it's really to see how do you understand these terms of excellence. If you take it with excellence and inclusion, then we have to cope also with the issue of how our VET systems are structured. We know it's a hierarchy, but it's also a stratification. So you have different parts of who goes where, depending on what one is bringing into the system. We know in Germany and some other countries that the apprenticeship placement are meanwhile more open, let's say cautiously, to persons with a higher level of general education, which should not be the case because in the law it's open for all. So you see that there are changes. And then is the issue of the quality of professional integration. So how does it fit? It's an issue of, I think, respect for people with difficulties, because they might not understand or they might not see or whatever, or come from a difficult background. So it means that you have to give those people, as well as the other ones, individual freedom of choice. And most of the time there are some paths reserved from some kind of people, let's say, and then it's also there a segregation at this level. And this is, for me, excellence and inclusion mean that you try to skip those traps, those failures of the system, maybe by increasing the hybridization. So the better mix of general education and VET education to allow to reach excellence by inclusion. So I will maybe, I don't know, I have no time schedule, so I guess you will tell me if I'm speaking too long. I take a few more minutes to go on to the third example, which is the German Excellence Initiative. Oh, thank you, sorry, I was looking for the red card somewhere. And it's the same, but it's based on something very important, which is a kind of civic commitment. So it's really the society, the idea that you are part of the system, that you are offering education perspectives, you are offering a certification, and we know in some countries having recognition or validation of prior learning, there is an issue about the value of the certificates, its value on the labor market, its signaling function on the labor market, depending how long you've been studying, if you went through recognition, and of course, if you are by person, someone with difficulties, maybe there is an inflation, stagflation, this kind of thinking around the issue of what is the signaling function of certification, and really how you measure this mix of excellence and inclusion. Maybe as a question, is not an excellent system the one that allows inclusion not only in VET but also in the labor market? And I noticed by the colleagues before, there was excellence of VET and inclusion in excellence. So I was thinking there is we really have to mix both, otherwise we will have two parallel discourses, not to the benefits of the one we want to help. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that brief and sweet discussion, just telling us what exactly we need to be thinking about. And to be honest, up to this point, should I do a pop quiz? Yeah? So what are we really saying about this topic? What is inclusive excellence? And what we're really trying to tell you is that as much as TVET is known to be close to the labor market, and our work is to promote young people to have quality education. Quality TVET is the quality TVET that is aligned to the labor market. And for that to be aligned to the labor market, it contributes to economic growth, and at the same time, it contributes to innovation. But how can we do that if we are not inclusive? We cannot leave some people behind. The inequality that we see today in the labor market starts from education. Because if we don't have access of people from diverse backgrounds in school, they won't be represented in the labor market. True or false? True? Yes. So what we're saying is, for inclusion to really promote innovation, for inclusion and TVET to promote economic growth, we have to start from the start. Think about what are the barriers of inclusion, what are the barriers of access to TVET, what are the barriers of participation and completion through TVET, and what are the barriers to reaching the labor market or advancing into higher education. And this is what the learner's journey is about, from where they start to where they go, and what we need to do in terms of policy, in terms of training methodologies, and other activities that we need to implement. And to get us started, I want to really hear from the young people, because these are the people who are the big question. At the end of the day, it's not about the what, the how, and everything else that we need to do. It's the who. Who are we really calling? This student. Who is the student? We understand the personas of these young people. I'm not the same as Anastasia. I have different needs. She has different needs. And when we come to school, we come with a lot of barriers, internal barriers. We have individual barriers, institutional barriers, societal barriers. Everything, you're fighting to come to school, and you want to be seen, you want to belong, you want to be heard. And this is what we're saying, that inclusive TVET must allow young people to be heard, seen, and represent, and have that sense of belonging. So I'm really pleased to welcome the young people. We have 2 representatives in the house, and one will be joining us online. And I'm going to ask you two to come on the podium as we get to understand really what are the young people's perspective on inclusive excellence. Do they see what we are doing? Do they understand it? And as you see, Arno is joining us on stage. Arno Shroyen, I hope I pronounced it correctly, is a 24-year-old student from Brussels who pursued a bachelor's degree in hotel management before commencing a master's degree in administrative science last September. Throughout his academic journey, he serves as an active student representative at local, national, and European level, focusing on issues concerning equity and inclusivity. Additionally, he represents VET as a student, as a European Student Union, and students in various national forums. Welcome, Mr. Arno. And sitting next is Ms. Valditara Huebler. Today, the names are going to confuse me. So Ms. Valditara Huebler is studied at Cometa, where she specialized in the Sala Bar field. She furthered her education at the International Academy for Tourism and Hospitality Academy, with 1-year course in restaurant and bar experience, and subsequently with a 2-year ITS course in digital marketing and hospitality management. She will complete her studies in July 2024. Throughout her studies, she has undertaken numerous internships, primarily in luxury hotels, to specialize in the world of food and beverage, ranging from service and hospitality and digital communication. And also joining us online is Mr. Vudin Viet Phong. Vudin Viet Phong, I can see you're joining or you're here. So Vudin, yes, I see your face. Yes, very lovely to see you today. And this is, Mr. Phong is a trainee at the Vietnamese talent for the Regia Vita Germany, who is here on an exchange program, and we're going to hear the interventions. So how are we feeling?
I'm feeling...
Okay. So we're just setting up for the next discussions. Yeah, I think Anastasia, you can also join us. And I will ask you also to join us, and I will introduce you later. Do we have enough seats? enough. Okay, so what you see here is a mix of young people and the policymakers who are going to answer the questions that young people are going to present as they share their experiences. But before we get into the young people and everything that they need to share, allow me to introduce the other panelist who is joining us. This is Mr. Dato Joseph Palaniapan. So I'm going to just call you Mr. Palania by your permission. Yes, so he is the executive chairman at the ASEAN Future Workforce Council, specializing in workforce development, innovation, and industry collaboration within the ASEAN region. So we have every representative here, and later Ms. Arshipala is going to join us for the other discussion. So just to get us started, and just maybe to start with you, Vardhana, you are a current student here at Cometa. How has your experience been? How did you join Cometa, and what kind of support did you get to tell us a bit about your story?
Yeah, nice to meet you all. My name is Vardhana Kublan. I'm 21 years old, and I'm actually working in Hilton Lake Como, like food and beverage marketing. So yeah, I studied in Cometa. My little story started in Cometa when I started in the second year, because I changed the school and I was lost. I feeling lost because I hated study. When I was very little, I hated study, I hated school. But when I went to Cometa, my mindset has changed, because the lessons are different, the professors were very different from the other school, the mindset, the company, and from since that moment I changed my view of my career, my professionality, and in this moment I'm very, very proud of myself to be here, to be in Hilton like food and beverage marketer. And in fact, in July, I take my degree and my diploma, and I conclude my little story of school. And yeah, that's all.
Thank you so much for sharing that. You said one of the challenges was you felt lost and you didn't like school, but then something happened. So what really happened to make you switch from not wanting to now being very happy?
Yeah, so I thought the school was very important, because I knew a lot of people, a lot of master on the sector, hospitality sector. It's the same for the YET, because we have a professor, but the professors are a very important people in hospitality. So they are they have own impression, impress. So this is very different from the other part. And I think this a little thing changed my mind and my company.
Okay, so it was a different perspective and the support from the professors. I was also very keen to hear from you, Phong, because I know you're an exchange student from Vietnam. If you are online, could you tell us your experience, how your experience in TVET has been, and how you ended up coming to Germany?
Yeah. Wait a minute. So first of all, hello everyone. So my name is Phương. I'm from Vietnam. Now I'm 23 years old. I have already come to Germany about 7 months. I joined a dual system learning in Germany about building structure. And throughout 7 months in here, I have learned a lot of things, and I have faced on a lot of challenges here in Germany, especially in Thuringia, Germany. So during the time I was learning, I learned here. It will separate into 3 parts of this program. I will learn in school practice in theory, and the third one is training company. And about this program, I feel it's very interesting me a lot because it's a opportunity for me to add more friends, to know about different culture, and most of all, this is my my most interesting job I have ever worked. In the school, we have to speak and we have to learn theory in German, and sometimes it make me it make me and my Vietnamese friend here feel very difficult to land in, but we always have always have teacher and student in the class who's always 100% supporting us and help us in every situation, in every problem we have here. About this program Vita, I have joined here. This is the Vietnamese talent for Thuringia. A lot of friends of mine, Vietnam and me, have joined this program here. It provides a lot of benefit that we earn. For example, we have rent supporting, and we have providing B2 German learning here by government fund for migration and refugees. And most of all, in my training companies, they provide us all gear to work and clothes, especially. That's why I was very glad now. This is from my company. For this program, it had a lot of challenge for people who are interested about. It's about the language skill, which is very important here in Germany. You have to speak very good English and also German. And about and the second one is about the information about this program that you join here. And the most important here to live and to work in Germany is about the culture. The culture in Germany is very important for people who want to work and live in Germany. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for just telling us about your experience. You talked about language being a hindrance for you, that you find people speaking German and you have to learn, then the culture is different. So those are some of the challenges, but you can hear that he had got a lot of support in navigating those hurdles. And now to you, Arno, you're the best example of what TVET is all about. You moved from TVET to higher education, which was a very good transition, and we're very interested to hear about your story and what kind of support did you receive in school to give you such good results?
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Arnaud and I'm from Belgium. I did high school. When I finished high school, I went to a general high school. I didn't do professional or qualification high school. And I was also in a very kind of elitist high school as well that really wanted all of us to go to university and to do big higher education studies. And in Belgium, we have a lot also of higher education institutions that provide VET curriculums. So I kind of randomly found out about a curriculum on hotel management. And I had the chance when I was younger to travel a lot with my parents. So I was kind of curious about how it works and what's happening behind the scenes. So that's how I decided to go for this curriculum. And yeah, also I didn't want to go into very long studies at that time. Now, I mean, I'm still a student. And so I was like, oh, a 3-year degree is very nice, and with a lot of working experiences as well. So that's why I decided to go into hotel management.
So while you were in school, did you have any challenges that you faced as a student?
Yeah, personally, as a student, I have learning difficulties, so I'm dyslexic, and it was very difficult to have arrangements made by my higher education institution, and especially I had to prove every year that I needed those arrangements, which is a bit stupid, let's say it roughly, but because when you have a learning disability, or even when you're a disabled person, your disability doesn't disappear from one year to another. I mean, kind of a stupid example, but if you're missing a leg, your leg doesn't regroup between the 2 years of your study. So it's really, and it's a general feeling where higher education institutions don't trust students and are asking for a lot of paperwork every year to prove again. It's the same problem, for example, when you need the scholarship, you need to prove each year that you are actually eligible to get your scholarship. Even if your situation hasn't changed, you have to go again through all of the paperwork, asking for documents and stuff like that. So this is a really big issue that I face, and I know a lot of other students are facing it as well.
Thank you so much for that. I hope you're taking notes. And I think for you, Vardi, did you have any challenges that you can say today that if that changed, life for you can actually get much better to where it is?
So along with some, for example, for some academy student yacht, I become an yacht ambassador to support who are disoriented or unfamiliar with the ETS word, and we are part, in fact, of We Are Yacht team. It's a team on social media where we communicate to academy life, academy project, and the story inside the academy. And this word is allowing me to build a future, and including digital skills, which I didn't have before. That is the very reason I chose digital marketing. And I think they are very useful skills because in my day work and in the day work of my company, of my course, I experiment with digital, and I can tell you that I learned in academy, and I use it every day, and I think this is the best use.
Okay, I think for you it was more of getting that digital competency filled in so that you can become a better student at what you are learning. So thank you for that. And maybe back to you, Arno, because I find your story very interesting. We have policymakers here, we have trainers, teachers, people who interact with students every day. And sometimes they don't understand some of the challenges that young people go through. And because they don't understand, they don't provide the particular support that is needed. So what kind of advice would you give them in terms of getting to understand the diversity in your classroom, or the kind of needs and support systems that students from diverse backgrounds would need? What would you tell them if you were to look at them right now?
I think it's all about including students in processes. I know a lot of you have national student unions, and your institution have a local union as well. And if it doesn't exist, I really encourage you to build one, and having students that talk with I talked a lot with my other classmates, but also when I was in my local union with classmates from my own curriculum, but also from other curriculums. And students really know what's going on, what are the real difficulties that students are facing in accessing, in difficulties. For example, I have a friend, I had to help her a lot because there is also, for example, when you're asking to have financial support, there is also a shame entering in all of that. And really, when you're a student representative, you know what's going on and people come to you and ask, yeah, can you help me? I mean, and it's sometimes very stupid stuff like help me to write an email to the social department of my school to ask for financial support. So really listening to students, including them in the processes, is very, very important. I would say that for me, it's the most important thing to do, and actively involving them, and not just inviting them to a meeting and then not really doing anything with that, because then it builds up frustration and then students will not come anymore and will not want to be involved. So it's really having active involvement in higher education structures. And for example, for VET, it's very, very difficult because, I mean, even I did a 3-year bachelor degree, so I'm there for 3 years. But for example, you have studies that are only evening classes that are for a year. That's it's a lot, and in a lifelong learning perspective, a lot of people that are already working on the site. So it's very, very difficult to include VET students into those mechanisms. But I think it's a real effort that needs to be made to really know what the student needs and how to move forward to make it more inclusive, to go through inclusiveness and excellency.
Thank you so much. You present a very valid point, which is about effort. It's not just something that you just wake up and say, okay, we are doing something, but it has to be intentional. Inclusion is an intentional effort to keep doing things that really respond to the students' needs. And as we conclude this, and I know we are going to have more activities offline just to discuss more about students' interventions and what we can do to support. And I think one of the things that we also see, and when you think you bring in the aspect of creating a safe environment for school, where students can be able to express themselves and teachers don't judge them. They don't want to feel judged. They want to feel they belong, and you build their self-esteem, creating that inclusive environment. Sometimes you find that students themselves will not be supporting this inclusive environment. We've seen studies show that there's a lot of alienation, stigmatization, and bullying from students, especially those who look at the other students who need extra support. And for you as young people, seeing this and you know your role as young persons in promoting inclusion is very important. What advice would you give other students, especially from the point of view where you've needed support and maybe the students did not support you? What would you give as good advice for them to really promote inclusion? Let's start with you, Vadi.
So, Sunny, in base on my story, to keep studying, maybe. Because by now we are full of distraction of all kinds, like social media, AI, but we can use it, use this distraction to be curious, to be improve, to be listening to other people, and create an environment. So I think it is my point of view for the other people. In fact, in my academy, we listen the same of Arnold, the people, the student, what they want. We make like a Met Gala or Yacht Sports Day, so we can listening the other student and make some activity for include everyone, with the AI, with use the social media, everything's of technology. That's all.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank you.
I hope the young people are listening, that you can use the opportunity for digitalization to improve outcomes for every student. And to go to you, Fong, as the final word, what advice do you have for other students who can promote inclusive and equality in TVET? I don't know if Fong is still here with us.
Yes, I am. What message or do I want to give give young people? I
Yes.
think it's about the opportunity that you have, and you have to take it. And with the opportunity, you also have the challenge that you need to facing. And about that, my only message sent to young people is always confident with what you choose, and always focus in what you planning to do. Thank you. That's all I want to share about the message.
Thank you so much. And lastly, do you have any message for young people?
Yeah, I would also, on what you said before, on indeed students coming from minority groups being bullied. It's very difficult because you cannot just say stop bullying and everybody will stop and everybody is happy. There needs to be a shift, a general shift in society, and it grows through learning on accepting more the others. And now, especially in the EU, with the rise of nationalism and far-right opinions that are excluding minorities, it's going to be even more difficult. So I think it's really the role of education and lifelong learning. So starting from even as young as kindergarten and growing through to teach about inclusivity and about understanding the others and understanding the differences is really where we can make changes. I think I'm almost done with my higher education. It's a bit too late for me, but there is a whole other generation that's going to come after us that could be those people. So yeah, that would be also my message for higher education and teachers that are in the room, to really look into an education going towards democracy and acceptance of the others.
Fantastic, amazing. A round of applause to our young representatives. Thank you so much. Young people are agents of change, and these are the interventions that the policymakers want to hear so that they can actively create laws and policies that really answer to this. And just to get a quick reflection, and also I want to welcome back Ms. Sophia Ashipala to this discussion, which is very vibrant and very interesting so far. So just to turn to you, Isabel, because you're close to me, from the challenges that you've had from the young people in terms of the lack of support systems, and this really resonates from the point of access to participation in TVET and even going to the world of work. What are some of the policy interventions which you can react to based on these challenges that have been identified?
I think it's a great idea to have you two and also the colleague from Vietnam with us. There is one point I like very much, is the ambassador idea, because it's like, it's not you are not elected as an ambassador. You feel that you are representing, that you are speaking for people, and you speak yourself with those people. So communication is given, and I think this is really a key. Let's say when policy is developed, you can make study, empirical study about 5 million students, and then you will get some skills intelligence. but it's far away from giving you, maybe in the policy decision, the feeling or the interpretation of the statistics. So I would say it's great that you are there with your organization and your involvement. And to the ambassador, we have some initiatives in Germany in that context, in VET context. We have VET ambassador. And they are for the time being, maybe we can think about developing a little more. They are there to give information. So it's people who are in VET, who might have finished their VET curricula, now working, and they present the profession and they present the way they have been going through in classes. So opening up not only to higher education, but also saying you can have a great career through VET. And it's peer-to-peer, let's say. It's from VET student ambassador to students. And they are invited by teachers and trainers who know best where who might need some information. That's the first reaction.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. And I know the representation we have here represents a whole world out there, millions and millions of young people who need the interventions that we're providing today. And I'm going to turn to you, Mr. Dato. I think that's the easiest for me to pronounce, Mr. Dato. And your work in ASEAN is commendable, especially in the workforce development. So how do you believe that inclusive excellence in TVET can contribute to addressing some of the workforce challenges in the ASEAN region?
Right. Thank you. I think, first of all, thanks. It's an amazing sharing that we had today on the perspective. See, for the inclusivity is the core important element now in the Asia Pacific, because there's a wide expansion of opportunity as well as the technology advancement in the region. And the change is also previously it's very much focused on specific area, but now it is cutting across to the entire region, because the technology intervention and the opportunity is also spreading it out. So for the employers, you see, in that sense, inclusivity is a great opportunity to bring diversity to the talent, the talent market, as well as actually to create a much more robust opportunity in terms of advancement of skill. And I think what is very critical is the way the entire ecosystem is structured and the collaboration between the stakeholders. Because at various occasions, it is that when you are not able to find synchronize the multiple stakeholder in the correct perspective, then it doesn't really jive. Because end of the day, outcome is critical. So, and I think in TVET, especially in Asia Pacific, the parents to a certain extent look at how do they ensure the kids who actually take this path is gainfully employed as an opportunity to have progress and advancement. So in this scenario, it is very important to put the entire ecosystem, the leadership from the policymakers, as well as the TVET supply chain and the employers. And sometimes the employers comes in at the very last stage. But I believe that there should be a shift, which actually we are now trying to advocate. How do we engage at the very beginning and then create a platform that once that we have identified the people, those that we could actually put into the system, that you guide them throughout the journey well. So I think listening to some of the feedback, that is actually the ground issue. And then for the employers, gone are the era that we wait for the policymakers or the policy development to start to move. I think there's a very strong advocacy towards this agenda in the region.
Fantastic. I think you bring a very important point, saying that employers should not come at the end of discussion. They should be integrated from the very beginning so that we make sure that curriculums align to the labor market. And just to turn to you, Ms. Ashipala, I know there's a lot of social concerns that we are seeing today. There's a lot of unemployment, migration, we're seeing a lot of inequalities, and really trying to understand what we need to do. So in terms of the efforts that African Union is doing, what would you say inclusive excellence can support in solving some of these social concerns?
Thank you very much, Priscilla. And let me also just appreciate the input that came from our youth. Indeed, as the agent of change, their message, they are really, really inspiring, not only to other youth, but also to all of us in recognizing that TVET is really, really important. All right, what the African Union is doing, we are advocating for collaboration, collaboration within member states and TVET ecosystem, and also advocating for high-level dialogue between unions, employers, as well as institutions, so that we communicate and we speak with one language. And this advocacy, mostly it is on policy and curriculum reform. We want policy and curriculum that promote the validation of skill and knowledge that has been acquired mostly through non-formal means, because we know that most of the youth, most of the students, most of the employees even, they have skills, but that skill cannot be validated with a qualification. They don't have qualification, but they have skills. So that is what we are advocating, to bring everybody together, institution of higher learning. How do we assist those that have skills that can be formalized then, so that they have a paper to show that they are qualified in something. So the curriculum reform is what we are advocating for, to improve also the quality and the relevance of TVET in Africa, and also the curriculum to respond to the need of the industry. But this curriculum should be uniform. That's why earlier on I mentioned about the domestication of the African Continental Qualification Framework, because this strategy is actually to see to it that whatever will be offered is uniform and it is the same. And an expert, a teacher, an instructor can be able to offer their service in any of the African member states. Because if we domesticate this, it means we speak the same language across Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And just to really dig deeper and follow up, because you mentioned about qualification standards, and really want to understand in terms of the support and working with this micro, small and medium enterprises, especially as we understand that many of the countries don't have formal employment systems. So how do you think collaborating with MSMEs is going to support inclusive excellence?
Yes, collaboration it's really important throughout, not only with small or medium enterprises, but throughout governments. The first thing that we need to do is to make sure that the capacity building of our educators and trainers, also including their professional development with learning methodologies, that one is the key. As we reform the curriculum, it means when we reform the curriculum, we continue to capacitate those that will be implementing the curriculum. Infrastructure development. Also at the African Union level, we always get technical assistance, capacity building to support member states to implement whatever transformative change or reform that is linked to labor market needs. Currently, we are collaborating with the European Training Foundation to offer technical assistance on this specific framework that I'm talking about in member states. Also together with the GIZ on the Skill Initiative for Africa. So this is the support that we are getting from all the other stakeholders in education that are supporting the department in making sure that support is provided to member states, to enterprises, small-scale enterprises, as well as the whole TVET ecosystem. We also have an agency, the African Union Agency, which is older than part, that mostly deal with skill initiative for Africa, and that is where we try to bring everybody on board to hear their voices, to listen to their challenges, and how we can support. When we hear their challenges is when now we try to outsource support for them by engaging the different partners that we have that are interested in that particular field. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And just to turn to you, Anastasia, let's talk about micro-credentials and what is the implication to inclusive excellence?
Thank you. This is my favorite topic, actually. Well, micro-credentials, I can talk about it for hours. I was saying that before to Katarina. Well, micro-credentials, actually, it's like a new trend, a current trend. We talk a lot about it in Europe and not only at the global level. I would say there are a lot of discussions and debates. And I think why is it important? Because first of all, it talks about more flexible learning offering, right? So the idea of not necessarily spending your whole life, like years and years studying in a university, of course, which is definitely needed, acquiring diploma, degree, this is all fine. But what else is needed actually by the labor market, by the employers? We really need this, let's say, way to show the current, let's say, skill set, skills and competencies a person has in order for the employer to understand, let's say, the potential, the capacity. And I'm very happy also to be sitting next to you, to young people, because I'm really inspired hearing them say that they have a voice. And I think also within the micro-credential sphere, also seeing it from the end user's perspective is key. First of all, as I said, micro-credentials are very good in the sense that they are very flexible. It's like the learning is actually offered at a shorter learning pace, rhythm. It's a way to show the potential that you have. But at the same time, there are still issues we need to consider. For example, always this issue of trust and transparency. What are those micro-credentials that can be trusted, quality assured, especially considering the varied, let's say, provision and learning offer, because it's a chaotic landscape. And because we are very much focusing on VET and labor market learning, we see that one thing is that the micro-credential somebody might have, like in the formal system, let's say, for instance, you're attending a MOOC program, like a short training or learning program, and then, of course, this is provided by higher education. But then what happens with micro-credentials that are, let's say, offered or needed in a company setting? Then we need to understand whether this type of credential is really of trust. Now, because you asked me, Priscilla, about the potential of micro-credentials for inclusion, for inclusivity, I think this is the current debate now, that and also Cedefop started the research back in 2020, but now in 2024 we are more in a mature level to perhaps already see the potential, not necessarily the current dynamic, but how it starts evolving for the future. All this idea of integrating different types of learners. It can be young people, but also adults or people who have been, let's say, dropping out from education, from formal education, but also deciding to come back. So in those contexts, I think micro-credentials can have a very important power. And I mean, all this idea of including, let's say, women or like, as I said, low qualified people, giving them the opportunity to showcase, let's say, in a short manner, the skills, competencies, or knowledge that they might acquire. And this, of course, needs to be acknowledged, let's say, by the employer, if it's on the job placement, or even if they want to progress in learning. There are different discussions and philosophical questions, if I may, related to the current aspect of micro-credentials. But yes, I think there's a potential in that sense in the future.
So in terms of the who it reaches to, so when you talk about micro-credentials, who are we targeting?
Yes, good question. Because we also did this research report on the added value for the end user, so we want to understand who is the end user. First of all, we talk about learners, right? And they are here, sitting next to me. I think it's the people who are embarking on a learning journey. But of course, it's also employees. I mean, if we think about somebody already working, being in an occupational sector, in a field, but then wants, let's say, somehow to upskill and to progress a bit further, then for sure it's the employees. But also it's the employers themselves, because they are also the end users. They are the ones who are requesting a workforce that can be, let's say, talented enough to, let's say, meet their demands. And of course, it's also the providers, the VET providers. And who is the providers? It can be a higher education institution, but not only. We see a lot this importance of universities of applied sciences or colleges having an important role in providing learning, which is more of a professional nature and mostly linked to the labor market. So it's a game of different players. But for sure, the end user is, mainly the person who is really like the owner of a micro-credential. So we have to focus on that.
Absolutely. The underrepresented, those who cannot really go through their whole degree, those are the people we are focusing and targeting through micro-credentials. And I want to bring in the online participants and also the viewers here, because I don't want you to feel like you're not part of this discussion. So I'm opening up a Mentimeter code, and really use your phones to scan that, and really want to hear, are there examples of inclusive excellence? Really, what kind of examples or initiatives have you come across that really highlight the importance of inclusive excellence within your regions? So use that code. It will lead you to two questions. The first question is going to be about where you come from in terms of representation. Are you a teacher, trainer, policymaker? And then the second question is going to be about examples. You can use 4 to 5 lines, you can write a paragraph. We are just interested in really understanding what interventions can we share with the larger audience. And this really applies to the people here and also online participants. And as we wait for you to do that, I will still continue with this discussion and really talk to you, Isabel, about these examples of good practice. I know there was, going back into the Osnabrück Declaration of 2020, there was declaration of having the first idea, which was resilience and excellence through quality, inclusive and flexible TVET. Are there examples from this topic that you can really highlight that have been successful?
This would be nice if I would come with results of evaluation, but it's currently running by Anastasia at Cedefop. So, but I come back to the Osnabrück Declaration. Each member state, we wrote it together with the federal ministry, as Germany had the council presidency. This is why you put me the question, I guess. And we thought we need to develop a next step in terms of European VET policy. And we wanted to go for inclusiveness and resilience. Resilience is quickly explained because we were in the aftermath of COVID. So we know COVID was a major crisis, but unfortunately nowadays we have other crises. So the system needs to be resilient, which means that you have to be innovative in the system, and then it's all the nice words, let's say. So how do we go there? And we go there with really a focus on continuous training, because until then, in most of the EU states, initial VET was in focus, but not continuous VET. And then, in some countries, continuous VET, the separation does not exist. Take France, it's a lifelong learning approach, or Denmark and Nordic countries have different views on this. And then there was previously the decision on Center of Vocational Excellence. For this, I will say, look at the website of ETF. They have a very good list of criteria, what is excellence in COVs. We're still discussing, I'm not agreeing on each thing, so it's time to discuss with the colleagues at ETF. And then we say also in our European perspective, you give duties to the Commission, but also take duty for yourself. And in that field, which sounds like the example from our colleagues from the practice, digital tools, digital infrastructure, we are a little bit behind maybe in some countries, so keep the pace with developing digital tools, and stronger than before, do this networking. So BILT is one example. When I'm asked to work on the side of evaluation, I will say this is one example on how to bring experts from different backgrounds around a topic, with the documentation that prove, of course, that you make progress or you discuss some issues. But also we have interesting examples in Germany. This is why we worked to have this in the declaration. It's a network of voluntary experts and executives. It's dear to my heart. It's a program we have in Germany, which means that retired managers, teachers, trainers, whoever left a few years ago and feel fit the work of life of work, can join in and deals as a mentor, as a tutor for young people maybe looking for orientation or lost. A friend of mine is one of these tutor and takes care of one young lady who is a little bit lost in her path, because they have the background. She's a vet teacher and can at least explain how teachings go on and why teachers nowadays might react with impatience, anger, or empathy in the best case. So I think this is something I hope to see will develop. Work-based learning, I think it's something you have not mentioned so precisely here in our discussion, but we know from German and other examples that integration of migrants go best through work-based learning. We know in mobility in Europe, of course, mobility between schools functions, but if you send a young person for its mobility phase in a company, the impact on his or her life, the understanding of what is a professional goes quicker in the development. So I think work-based learning, maybe you can, I'm always giving homework for things I'm not responsible for. So ideas, you can see how you can join it. And of course, we had the core, one of the core ideas was excellence in link to higher VET. And here we met with a colleague from different European countries, and this is a strange idea. It's an idea born out of, let's say, more the German context at that time. We know higher VET exists in Switzerland, in Denmark, in France, in other countries. But for us, it was one aspect of excellence, and now we look at our neighbor countries and further neighbor country to learn more about higher VET and how we manage in Germany. So it's immer this peer learning exchange, which is around an issue. So we're not talking for talking, so trying to take an issue and find first questions and then solutions.
Questions and then solutions. Okay, fantastic. And just to get another example of the German approach, I'm going to talk to you, Anastasia, and this is about the Centers of Vocational Excellence. And we see that this really promotes inclusive excellence, in which we are discussing today by providing the tools and the facilities that are up to date. But in terms of policy and funding, how is this supported, especially in the EU?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I don't know whether it should be asked to me or European Commission representative, because if you talk about funding, yeah, it's not on Cedefop side in that sense, but I would actually focus mainly most on the networking aspect, which is actually happening at the European level, for instance, and not only at the European, but also at the international level. For instance, we have established this very important interagency working group on the future of for sure we try to monitor and to see concretely the developments that countries are taking towards, let's say, the different priorities and, of course, how they focus excellence currently. Just a last remark that from the policy monitoring exercise we had now, we saw that 23 countries in Europe actually try to work towards inclusion and equal opportunities in two ways. First, by preventing leaving from education and training, which is very important, and the second is by promoting gender equality. So you see, at the country level, there are specific aspects we try to focus on. Thank you.
So we're really coming close to this discussion, and I want to remind you about the Mentimeter. Please keep sending in. I want to read some interventions, of course, at the end of this. And really, we talk about funding for inclusion. We say it's a whole system approach. It's a multifaceted way in which different stakeholders can come in to support institutions and the students who need financial support. So in terms of public and private partnerships, and I'm looking at you, Dato, because this is your area of expertise, how best can we utilize these opportunities to really promote inclusive excellence?
Right. I think I'll just probably share with you a case study that I think a good case study that we have come upon on a good public-private partnership model. I think if some of you would have heard about this program called Tata Strive. This is actually developed by the Tata conglomerate in India, where they took up a project that cut across the entire ecosystem because their business cut across to various sectors. As of 2023 statistic, they have actually covered about 322,000 youth. Out of these, they have got about 38,000 on direct on skills, something on the micro-credential kind of a model and all that. And they have also a huge number, about 280,000, that is covered through the faculty certified and also recognized prior learning methodology, which actually gone very well with the employers ecosystem, because we are not only talking about bringing in people from outside or the existing student, but getting those actually within the system to be adequately certified and recognized with the existing competency. And another interesting statistic in that program is that we have got about 9,000 of these participants actually trained for livelihood in the informal sector. And about 70% learners are below 18 and 54% from marginalized group with 27% participation of women. See, the irony, the outcome of this program works very well because it is derived from the notion where at the end of the process, these people would be in any way, either they are gainfully employed or they are provided a skill set that they could sustain themselves. And I believe such integration will be meaningful because why they come into the picture at the very first place is to ensure that we are able to provide that protection. And so, one of the outcomes that was shared, I had an opportunity to meet one of the participants of the program, which actually, a single mother who participated and eventually with a certain skill set, graduated into an entrepreneur. So TVET entrepreneurship kind of agenda could be also one of the outcomes that could, because it is not about getting them to be employed, but it's also empowering them to provide job. And that could actually really transform that. You could have outcome that goes beyond from the economic perspective, but it changes life. So this one model that actually had worked well, I think for the participant, you could actually check their website has got all the relevant data related to this. Another in the ASEAN context itself, because your question just now is that whether it should be micro, small, medium industry or a combination. My answer is that there has to be a combination. It has to be driven by the large organization because they do have the ecosystem to drive the small, medium industry, which most of the time are being the partner of the ecosystem. So in that sense, when large organization starts to take inclusivity as an agenda, as a priority, and try to cascade that down into the economic circle, then I think the outcome will be good. There's a very good project that is undertaken by Samsung in Vietnam, where they have actually tied up with the local education body. I think if you just to, okay, they're tied up with Haipong. I think those of you from Vietnam, you are familiar with them, you know that they work with Haipong and World Vision Vietnam, which is an NGO that works on this agenda. And they have covered a huge project covering about 12 provinces, 33 schools, and they've trained about 3,000 over TVET instructors as well as students in the digitalization agenda. So it requires a combination, a public-private partnership with a focus on the result, outcome. That could inspire and also motivate people, especially those from marginalized groups, to see this as a way out from the situation they're in. So getting this model to a public-private model would actually eventually create a good pilot project or low-hanging fruit that could get more people to come on board on this inclusivity agenda.
Fantastic. I see we are really out of time, and I wanted to really take the chance to put in a few words. And really, in a nutshell, what we are hearing today is that inclusive excellence is a multifaceted approach that requires intentional action and commitment in terms of policy, practice, and as Arno said, a shift in attitudes and cultures that allow every student to feel that they matter and they matter equally. So we have many tools that can support institutions who want to start their journey on inclusive excellence. I know Cometa has 3 guides on this topic, and UNESCO-UNEVOC is publishing soon a practical guide that can support institutions to start this, as well as Cedefop ETF. We have many practical guides that we can support you if the question is, how do I get started? Because that is the intention for this discussion. I want to take this chance to thank our panelists. Thank you so much. From the young participants, let's have a round of applause. Young participants, yeah. And our policymakers and interveners from Ashipala, Anastasia, Mr. Dato, and Isabel. A round of applause, please. And of course, without forgetting you, the audience, thank you so much for staying with us. And before I go, I want to see, what did you write on the Mentimeter? There's a reason why we're asking for these interventions and promising practices, because sometimes you want to see what your neighbor is doing. It inspires you. It allows you to start something. You want to be able to contribute in a small way, and you get started with an initiative that promotes inclusion. I don't know, I can see tiny things on the screen, but I'm going to ask, first of all, Anastasia, is it not Anastasia? I like you too much, okay. Natalie, my colleague who was manning the Q&A session and also seeing the interventions from online participants. Do we have any examples from our online participants on promising practices on inclusive excellence? Maybe 1 or 2, so that we show intervention from online participants.
Okay. We have one from our dear Jay Deichman, from one of our latest UNEVOC centers, who joined the network from Hudson Valley Community College in the USA. Who mentioned some of the programs that they run, and he calls it for the often invisible populations. And he mentions the Uniquely Abled Academy, the Refugee and Immigrant Community Forum, and the on-campus Veterans Resource Center, and also Girls in STEM. So they try to address very different groups with different programs at the Hudson Valley Community College. We have another contribution from Costa Rica, the National Training Institute there, Roberto Enrique Diaz-Paez, who mentions that they are working on opening STEM careers to girls and have many support and follow-up programs, so the girls not only enroll but also stay and graduate throughout the country. So those are 2 examples we got online. And I want to take the opportunity to mention that we had very much engagement and participation from online participants. Lots of comments, lots of questions. It's a shame we will not be able to get to them, but I want to thank them for being present and being so interested and engaged.
Yes. Thank you so much, our online participants. It's always fruitful to have more discussion from different regions. And I'm just going to read a few of these key characteristics of inclusive excellence. The one that comes very highly recommended is flexibility, openness, participation, lifelong learning. We have access, diversity, collaboration, equal opportunity, and as well as quality tutoring. We have acceptance, financial support, responsiveness, skill for sustainability, and the list goes on and on. So thank you so much for staying with us in this first session. A round of applause again. Today is all about... And so I'm just going to announce that this is the end of the first session. We're going to have a photo session immediately after this outside. And for the next session that we're going to have is going to be roundtable discussions to dig deeper into these topics, where I'm going to do like a few pop quiz. Yeah? Okay, people are not very keen. There's no pop quiz. But for our online participants, please join us on the next, after the next 20 minutes. We'll be joining other participants here to discuss about inclusive excellence using the UNESCO-UNEVOC approach. For you to know which room you're going to be allocated, we have green, blue, and red badges and small cards at the entrance. You pick one and it will show you which room you're supposed to go into. Without further ado, let's have a coffee break. Thank you so much.